And we're back. This is a Middle Perch live on the internet. I am MTK on the MIC. It is Tuesday. Here, February 12th. While it's Wednesday, February 13th in Asia, Australia, and India. So here we are picking up where we were yesterday, doing some work on these collage materials. I have taken this one, for example, and shaved it down. Look at that. That thing is really thin now. Compare it to one of the ones that has not been shaved down. So this is the back side of one of them, and you can see the thickness. So in order to make this collageable, we want to take each of these and shave them down. And the way we're doing that is we're using our blade to... So here's the back side, right? That's the front side. It's too thick. But the thinness we're talking about is really slight, so we're doing this kind of a bit. See that? It's really a thin cut. And if you go at an angle, you're in big trouble because it'll sink into the other side. You don't want that. So peel a little bit, etc. And then when you get to a level where it's can't cut with the blade anymore, handy dandy file. File's just a matter of, probably start with this, but the problem with that is you just make a mess. So it's better to use the blade first. And that is what we're doing. And we have created a context for these I'm really excited about, by the way. This super cool context, which I'm very excited about, is going to be happening soon. Which is one I've just come up with a few minutes ago while we're hanging out here. Yeah, the magnifying glass is a really useful tool. You're trying to get this stuff working, The thickness here is maybe 3 millimeters, and we're trying to get it down to 1. Because when we adhere this, we want it to be as thin as possible, and we want the glue to really be making contact with the surface that will be adhered to our paper or our mount. In this case, I'm going to use cardstock. My plan is to make a series of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 pieces. These coasters are, of course, available. I can pick up as many of these as I want. So this is not a particular material that is difficult to come across. So I'll do these as limited editions. Okay, these will be limited edition pieces. I am excited about them. Now, I believe this is Montezuma II. Montezuma II, if you do not know, is the man who is sadly remembered by the history of the victors as the one who lost to the Aztec, who lost to the Europeans, was defeated by the Europeans, the last, if you will. But the Aztec leaders, maligned by history, and at least the history we're taught, And some people have tried to revise that malignation by saying he was misunderstood, and in fact, he was forced to deal with something that no one had ever been forced to deal with, the arrival of genocidal Europeans who decided that they were animals, and that the people who were arriving were real men, and God was on their side. So that was an unprecedented, ooh, careful, don't scrape the front side, folks, when you're doing this. So there has been some revisionism, but not much. And so I decided we're going to make this a revisionist piece ourselves. So this is going to be a fun example of, I told myself I was going to try to do some pieces on the net, like on the live stream, right? Just little pieces. The reason is to talk about process, show people some cool things, tactics, and to come up with new, smaller, fun, pieces, and to show you my process. As I discussed earlier, my process involves deconstruction and reconstruction toward my own ultimate communication. And my communications, as you may have noticed, are very, outside the norm of contemporary society. And my goal is to kind of make people think twice about things that they've been repeating like mantra over and over again that aren't necessarily the coolest things to be repeating as mantra. So this one is going to be one of those. It's one I've always wanted to make. And when I was growing up here, I would not be able to make this. I physically would not be able to do what I'm doing right now. I was too afraid, certainly, of the dominant culture. And the dominant culture would not allow it. It didn't understand freedom of speech, nor did it understand art at all in the 90s, 80s here. It was very naive then. Even now, in the United States, it's one of the more ignorant places. But now I can get away with this. And so for the first time, I'm going to be doing something here that I've wanted to communicate for a very long time with this piece. I'm excited about that. Is it too late to make a piece like this? I don't think so. I think we're living in very unusual times when things we didn't think could happen are happening now in terms of the communications between the white culture, the supremacists of the whites, and the dominant white culture, and the rest of us with regard to immigration. And it's important to maintain for the people who are trying to be progressive and make change that it's possible, and that we're not going to sit on the cement lectern of the past. We're going to make new lecterns altogether. So when you see this piece, I think you're going to like it. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll hate it. Maybe it'll give you a visceral reaction that makes you want to vomit. That's possible with a piece like this. That's possible. So why am I making it? Well, because of that. Or maybe you won't even understand it. But I'm excited to make it, and you're getting to watch that. So there's two of them. Nice flat backs. See how we've thinned it out? Made it really thin like that? Wafer thin, as they say. It's a wafer thin piece here now. Really, there's no end to the amount of this I could do. I really wanted to get it wafer thin, but I think this is going to be satisfactory. We're using cardstock for the other bit, and I'm going to have to clean all this up later. So there's two of them. Two of Montezuma II. We have a few more to go. This one tore. I'm a little disappointed. I have to get another one to make that. The head tore off because I wasn't careful when I was trying to do this, right? Again, this would be a good time to change blades because we're cutting through what's basically compressed cardboard, right? And we're going from that thickness to this thickness. So you want to think about changing blades. I'm going to check this one more time before I do because I think I'll be all right. Yeah, this is still pretty good. It's going to work for my purposes. Come on, let's not go too deep, buddy. See, it's going too deep is the problem. So changing blades wouldn't even really help me right now. Might even hurt. We want to go just shallow enough to get rid of this surface and not damage the other side, which is our side that we want to apply in our context. Now, this context is going to be unusual. It's not going to be related to Montezuma's time at all. It's going to be related to a completely different time period in history. So this is what I mean by deconstruction and reconstruction. There are several parts to what I do. Part one is choosing materials. I choose materials based on my conceptualization. Come up with ideas and I choose the materials from those ideas. Then comes the execution, which is what we're doing now. We don't just stick a coaster on a piece of paper. No, we use art practice techniques such as proper preparation of the imagery, reducing the amount of extraneous material, not allowing the extraneous material to end up causing a problem for adhesion, for example. See, by doing this is going to adhere so much better because what I've done is I've taken away that thickness and the external material they put on a coaster. Because a coaster has to be very tough to take the punishment it takes from boozers who are putting their cocktails on it, right? So this is execution. And then the third part is the reconstitution of the image into a message of my creation. It's not someone else's creation. No one else has thought of it. I'm not trying to copy. I'm not trying to get this guy in the service of Nike. I'm not trying to get this guy in the service of, America or of me. I'm trying to get him in the service of a concept, right? I'm trying to get this image of Montezuma II to function for me in a concept. And that concept is the third part of what makes my art my art. And I hope what makes my art good, I think I make good art. And there are some institutions that have bought my art that think so too, so that feels nice. And now I'm making videos, so I thought I'll show you. This is not, by the way, a normal piece, nor is it even a piece that I would consider one of my, I'm doing this that I'm doing here, but on a much larger scale with my real big works. But okay, see, look, another thin, wafer thin Montezuma. Wafer thin Montezuma. Wafer thin Montezuma. We are rocking out wafer thin Montezumas right now. In service of my message. Now, what is my message going to be? I came up with it this morning, and I was like, oh, that'll be great. And I did a drawing of it, but you don't get to see the drawing because the drawing is a sketch. It's merely a sketch of what the final thing should look like. And we're going to be using different media for the final piece. One of the media we're going to use is something I love that's been around for a long time that a lot of people don't use because they feel like it's a 20th century thing that I love. I used it when I was a kid, and then when I got to Brooklyn, at Brooklyn we had awesome collections of them. So I used them a lot at Brooklyn. And of course, what I'm talking about is the hand printing methodology known as rubber stamp. Rubber stamp. That's right. We're going to use rubber stamp to do our printing. We're going to bring some acrylic paint into the mix here. And we're going to have, if we don't use the one I tore, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I like that. I always like an odd number. That's a fixation from Tamil Nadu or from my culture or from just, different things. Doing it, I've always done and one, In Tamil culture, when you give a gift, you're supposed to give and one. So if I give you $100, I should never give you $100. I should give you 101. And that and one-ism kind of manifests itself in my addition work as odd numbers. I don't know why. I like odd numbers, but I do. Okay, we're getting close to this one being done here. The blade, before you use the file, you want to be real careful. It doesn't sound like I'm being careful here, but it's because I can see the thickness through this lens. You know, in other times when I'm doing this kind of work and we're using material that's coming out of just, you know, disposable, cheap materials here that I'm making art out of, they have to be made valuable by doing these processes. You have to make sure that you're not going to have adhesion problems and so on. One of the things I do to prevent that, an example I'll give you is cross hatching. You take the thing like this that you're going to glue down, and then you take your blade and you cross hatch. So when the glue goes in there, it adheres more deeply. And we're talking about just millimeters of thickness, but what a difference that makes to the final piece in terms of its permanent lifetime archival quality. So all of these acts make the work professional, and they substantiate my claim to be an artist, because this is how you do it. And if you do it any other way, it's less than, my friends. Oh, this one's cool. Oh, man. So you see, I think I was telling you I haven't used coasters often, and I said that I'd only used them twice, but that's not true. Because I remembered there's another time I used the Baby Sham. You know, Baby Sham has the tiny deer on it. And I used the Baby Sham deer off of a set of coasters for Baby Sham. The Bambi, if you will. And that was because of my love of the young ones. Okay, now this crazy thing, we're going to try to make a third one that's larger. And I'm thinking about doing something like this. You see the B side has a larger image of Montezuma. We might be able to double up like that and create a thicker winged helmet. See this? Isn't that neat? Just like that, we make it like he's got a bigger head, right? So we're going to do that now too. To do that, though, we got to be a little careful. We want to take off the interior edge of the line that we made, this interior line. When I'm being conservative, I leave bits that I can always take out later. It takes more work, but I wasn't sure where this was going yet. So now what we're going to do is pull that little white line out. And remember we talked about beveling? We want to bevel this so it goes in and away from the colored surface material. Because again, when we go to the back to shave it, the edges will be really crisp then. And look at that. It's very interesting how images change when you take away just the smallest amount of material. That was something I learned early on with this kind of collage work, is that it's one thing to conceptualize it, it's another thing to execute it, because once you do, it looks totally different from what you might have thought originally. And then it starts taking on its own form. That form is what's exciting. That form is what makes it really fun to do this. You're creating a third thing from something, and you're conveying a meaning of your own, you know? So some people might think this is derivative work, or this is not original. I mean, pastiche. I could see that. But I think we deconstructionists, people from my age group who are trying to do this kind of stuff, we're looking at it more like nowadays, all around us, because of the cheap materials and design stuff that's all around us, we can make multiples and crazy images just by borrowing them from the garbage bins around us, you know? I think that's much more what's going on here. Not, wow, look at that. That's really nice. This is looking really good. So, I'm a non-materialist. I really believe that. People think, I mean, when you look around what I'm doing here, there's so much material around me, and I'm working with material. But if you think about it, there's very little in this room that I haven't saved over 30 years. 30 years I've collected the material that's in this room. So of all the crap that's been in my life, this is what's left, if you will. And what's here is meant to be composed into these pieces of mine over the long haul until I'm dead. So I think of it slightly differently because of that. It's not like, oh man, this is going to look so nice. But we're going to have to cut the bottom one, and we're going to have to thin both of these out for this to work. Oh man, this is nice looking. Folks, this is looking exactly how I wanted it. We're going to take off the front end of that. And again, all of this is predicated on the concept, right? I mean, just cutting a coaster isn't, I don't believe, in and of itself art. That's craft. You know, it's not art. Art to me is the conveyance of meaning from this act. And the conveyance of meaning that I'm going to pull off here is going to be cool. It's going to be something that no one says. I'm about to make something that nobody says. Right? And in doing that, I will have said it once and for all. I will have said it. And I've been wanting to say it for decades. But here in Texas, I haven't been able to. So this is something that I'm doing. That is cool looking, guys. You want to see it? I wonder if I can hold it right. Let me see if I can from the side. Oh, I think I pushed it. Did I? I might have pushed it, but see, look at that. Now that's a cool looking Montezuma with feathers going all the way around and a twice the size helmet, right? It's looking good. So this Montezuma is going to be put into service here soon, folks. And the service is going to be meant to communicate large ideas about our society. Not just beer. I'm not going to sell beer with it, right? See, what I'm doing has also aspects like that, which is if the capitalist beer company is the one that can afford to make this and tell us this is the art we get, then I'm going to take the art that they can afford to make and I'm going to employ it for my own purposes. I'm not going to just let it sit out there and be used only to sell beer. No, because I can't afford to make 72,000 million coasters, right? No, I cannot. I cannot afford to make billions of coasters. But I can take your coasters, which you've already made and which are just being destroyed and chucked about, and I can repurpose them to my own communication. That is cool. That's something I've liked doing. It changes the relationship between the marketers and me into one where I take control more of the messaging than most people because I just make the message my own. I don't want to live in a society like I live in where it's so dominated by capitalism that only the art around me can be what the capitalists deem acceptable. That's not cool. That's not a good society. That's a closed society, not an open society. So, as an artist, my purpose is also to open society. Okay? That's what we're doing here. We're opening society by doing this. And being a collage artist means having the balls, if you will, or the guts, if you're not male, to take chances in these communications so that real something is happening. Not just, gee, it's not going to be for beer. I'm going to use it to sell lemonade. That would be dumb, right? No, what we're doing here is repurposing imagery to convey much larger ideas than beer or lemonade. Rather, who are my neighbors and what are their opinions of stuff that's around me? And what am I just saying? Like, because everybody tells me to say it instead of just really thinking about it and going, that's not really cool to half my neighbors if I say that. Right? For like neighbors who happen to be from Mexico, like the Aztec Moctezuma the second and last. Okay, so those are pretty clean now. We've got the second one we're working on here, and I've done a half hour today without even really doing any news topics, which is cool. So there's about 3 minutes left in the cast. I'm going to continue working on this. By the next time you see me here, we should have a completed, at least one of them should be done, I hope. We'll see. There's a lot to do. So, yes, collage. My interest in collage is to not do a lot of it, but when I do it, to do it very precisely and with a specific message. And it usually is quite deep. And a good example is that one you always see back there. I don't think people understand that one at all, and I love it. But I also love when people look at it, because they go through, it starts superficial, that's what I like, and then it gets deeper, so that the observance of the pieces, it lingers with the mind of the viewer. That's ultimately the goal. So this is going to happen here shortly with the cool new repurposing of Moctezuma II from the Dos Equis land. Over my shoulder over there, we also have that repurposed. Let's see, where is it? Way over there. There it is, up there in the corner. See? So that up there in the corner, this right here, is the Native American from the Topo Chico logo, which I wanted to repurpose, but then Coca-Cola bought Topo Chico, right? So things got kind of a little weird after that. I didn't really want to promote Coca-Cola, even though Coca-Cola changed their logo. I mean, they not changed, but they fundamentally were involved in why the logo changed, because they didn't want a native with his face stuck in the, in the river. They wanted a girl or a native scooping it into their mouth with their hand. More civilized image. So, as I was saying about being a parallel historian and a person who preserves things that we're checking out, it's not that long ago that we were, and many of us still are, natives who stick our faces in rivers for water. Many of us humans, I mean. And we may end up having to go back to that, so it would be better if we didn't pollute the water, but rather kept it clean or cleaned it up so that that possibility is available still to us. That is not the theme, by the way, of this piece. It's just yet another thing to chat about as we make art in the modern, postmodern, postmodern, post-millennial era, the dawn of the second millennium of the Christians, if you will. Yes, so good. You got to see a little art making today. I'm back on Twitter, as I said, been doing a lot of Palestine stuff there. I don't know why. I think it's because of what happened with these Congress women. It just keeps going on and on, this kind of behavior by the right wing and the pro-Israel lobby, AIPAC, and the wealthy Zionist entities who just flood money in to change the story And I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Jew. I'm a Hindu by birth, which I can't change. But I'm an atheist, and my consideration of that area is as a journalist. I went there as a journalist, so I think when I read things I read, they're just transparently wrong and not what's going on there. It frustrates me, and I hope that we can fight propaganda with real information. So a lot of that's been going on over there. That brings us to the half hour. I'm going to wrap it today. We did some pre-collage work. Thanks for hanging out. This is a Middle Perch live on the internet.